Hello everyone, my name is Akankshu Nani, and welcome to my YouTube channel NeuroChat with AG. On this channel, I plan to cover topics that are closest to my heart and support the neurodiverse community. Topics related to neurodiversity, autism spectrum disorder, and more. On the channel, I will interview thought leaders, esteemed researchers, scientists, professors, doctors, and psychologists, seeking their views and updates on their latest work, research, etc. I will also chat with parents of neurodiverse kids and adults and talk about experiences of neurodiverse individuals. Miss Madhavi Adimulam is a dedicated and passionate advocate in the field of autism support and intervention, and the mom of 26-year-old with autism, and Hanan certified language and speech coach, TEDx speaker, and founder of Autism Society of AP and Telangana. She is also the founder of Ananya Child Development Center, which plays a critical role in shaping the lives of countless individuals with autism and their families. With her expertise as an RCI certified autism specialist, Ms. Adimulam has developed a comprehensive approach to autism care, blending her deep understanding of the condition with a commitment to providing individualized support. Under her leadership, Ananya has become a beacon of hope for many, offering a range of services designed to meet each individual's unique needs. Her approach is deeply rooted in the belief that every individual with autism has the potential to thrive when provided with the right support and opportunities. Ms. Adimulam, welcome and thank you very much for the time today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and reaching out to me on LinkedIn and asking for the time for the interview. Any opportunity that I get to spread awareness about autism is something that I'm not going to miss out. So, yeah, I'm very happy to speak to you about whatever I can today. Yeah.
Could you please start by sharing your background and how you got involved with autism?
So, the word autism, I think I heard first time when my son was diagnosed with autism when he was about 2 years old. Before Actually, I heard that a few days before his diagnosis. I was researching on the internet. There was no Google that time. I was researching internet on the internet about why children don't speak because he had a speech delay. And I had my younger son was also born, and I could see the differences between both of them. So when I stumbled upon Autism Society of America website, it had a screening questionnaire for parents to find out if they think their child has any developmental issues. When I answered the questionnaire, I found that Varun might have autism because he ticked all the, boxes. So I took a printout of that and I went and met my pediatrician. She said that maybe you're just over anxious and maybe it's not autism because autism was not such a regular thing those days. It was pretty rare, or the clinicians, the doctors used to see autism cases very rarely in their clinic. So they wouldn't really immediately jump to the conclusion that the child has autism. They would wait and watch, they would give few more months' time. But I kind of knew that it may be autism because I'm Varun's mom and I spent whole day with him. And the questions kind of resonated with me that, yeah, this looks like autism. So I found a clinical psychologist, went to her, got the screening done, and she diagnosed him with autism. So that's how my journey with autism started. And I realized that Hyderabad did not have the infrastructure to support people with autism. They would put autism in the regular intellectual disabilities category, and they would put all children with intellectual disabilities and other disabilities to in one play in one room actually in some places, and they were not getting any individualized care or education based on what they can do. They were all put under special needs category. I understood that Varun was probably not going to fit in one such schools, and the regular schools were not able to handle him. He was very hyperactive and he wouldn't sit in one place. Nobody understood autism. So that's since I had a corporate job and my office had my company had offices in different countries. I was working for Europe region and I would travel to Scandinavia very often those days. And I told my boss that, look, I can't take my son to, Sweden or Finland. it's going to be difficult because the language spoken is not English. Could you find me an opportunity where English, in any English speaking country, it could be any country which is a developed country. Then he found an opportunity for me in the UK. So I immediately relocated to the UK with Varun and started getting help for him for his autism. So that's how my journey with autism started.
Thank you. And I know you just talked about your son's diagnosis and you kind of explained how, you found you tried to get to the UK and succeeded to kind of find a place where you could get better accommodations and things that fit his needs. So
Yeah.
could you explain kind of like how your parenting journey from that point, like, onwards from the diagnosis?
So, luckily, both my husband and I didn't really worry too much about the diagnosis, the name, autism. We thought, okay, fine, whatever it is, he's our child. We need to do our best to support him. So, we were not in denial, you know. But we at the same time we thought that maybe with support he will significantly improve. That was the kind of mindset we had. So when I went to the UK, the first thing, I mean, when I went to the school, I did some research on which is a good school district in that the place where I was going, and I did some research and found that there's something called Ofsted report. The schools get evaluated in the UK by this government organization called Ofsted, and they give ratings to the school based on several criteria, and one was inclusion, special needs, things like that. So I found the best rated schools for in special needs inclusion. And if I could move to the catchment area that is within the 3 miles of the school is obligated to give admission to the child. They can't refuse admission. So I moved, found a house near the school, moved to that place, and then approached the school that I wanted him to go to. And that day, I think two kids approached the school. One kid was Varun, the other one was without any special needs. He was a neurotypical child. So the school had to refuse the admission for the other child because in the UK, the priority is always given to special needs kids. If a child has special needs, then the child gets the first priority to get admission in the school. And the principal told me that since he has a diagnosis of autism from India, they had to redo the assessments and all in the UK. At the same time, they need to find a full-time learning support assistant. In the UK, the shadow teachers are called learning support assistants. So without finding a learning support assistant, they can't have him in the school. She said, I'm going to start interviewing for a learning support. They had the funding to support, and they said, we will look for a learning support assistant. And also, if any school in the UK gets a special needs child, the school will get additional funding to support. So the school is also happy to have the child because they are going to get more funding from the council. So we interviewed a few. She said, if you want to be part of the interview process, please join me. And then we interviewed, and we found a learning support assistant for Varun. And I was surprised. The whole process was so easy. I didn't have to struggle. I didn't have to run from pillar to post to find out how to get the admission done. Easily, we got admission into one of the best schools in that area. And I didn't have to pay for anything. It was absolutely free of cost. And Varun's journey in the school started. And and we started getting help from the school, from the learning support assistant, from the council. There was a social worker who was assigned to the family to guide us through the process of the special needs journey. So the entire support system was in place. And he was a gifted learner, and they felt that he doesn't need to go to a special school. He needs to be in a regular mainstream school with support, which was exactly the opposite of what I was told in India. I was told that he should go to a special school because the regular schools cannot have him in the school. It was a pleasant surprise that, oh, they think that he has the ability to go to a regular school with support. And so UK kind of opened my eyes, and I understood that, oh, special needs is looked completely differently here. It's not the way it is looked at in India. You know, so UK has been quite a good experience. I could attend a lot of parent support groups, trainings, get myself fully equipped to bring up a son with autism. And after a few years, we decided that since we were confident after a few years, like about 4 or 5 years in the UK, we were happy that okay, now we are equipped to move back to India. In case if we don't find any place for Varun in Hyderabad, then we will start something ourselves, was the plan, you know.
And you also mentioned that Varun learned multiple languages at a very early age, and you took
Yes.
advantage of this skill for his education. So could you please tell us more about that?
So what Varun used to, I didn't know that Varun was learning, he was hyperlexic. I didn't know that he was hyperlexic because why would I even think about it, you know? No parent would, didn't even know the term hyperlexia those days. So we had a dial-up, this was way back before we moved to the UK. Uh, we had a dial-up internet. I don't even know if you understand a dial-up internet connection. Uh, it's probably too you're too young to even understand what that is, but you can Google it and find out what it was. When internet started all over the world, it was through your phone line. So we would connect to the internet using the phone lines. So we had a modem that was connected to the phone, and through that we would get internet connection. It was extremely painstakingly slow. Still, it was way better than not having internet. Okay. So we had an internet connection at home, a dial-up internet connection. This is about 98 or something like that, 99 that time. And Varun was around 1.5 years old. I would work from home sometimes, connecting to the internet, dial-up internet, and he used to sit next to me on a chair while I was working. Because he was a little baby and he was just sitting next to me. He would see me go through the whole process of connecting to the internet. You know, I had a Yahoo Mail ID, and then I would log into my mail and do whatever I was doing. So I didn't know that he was actually learning the whole process of connecting to the internet while watching me do that. And so what happens is if I'm connected to the internet, my phone line would get busy because it's internet is using the phone line to get me connected to internet. So nobody can call me basically on my landline phone. So I had a full-time helper to take care of kids because I was a working mom. And whenever I called home from office, my line would be busy. I used to think that my helper is just on the phone constantly, you know, because the line would come busy. One day I suddenly came home just to check on her to see is she continuously on the phone, because every time I asked her, she would say, I'm not using the phone. Then why is the phone line busy? Was my question. When I came home one day suddenly, I saw Varun sitting at the computer browsing. I was shocked to see that. How did he figure out connecting to the internet? He was such a little, toddler. Oh my God, that's when I understood that this kid was very smart. And then my sister-in-law used to sometimes come. My husband is a Malayali, I'm a Telugu. And my sister-in-law used to come, and she had a daughter, and she would carry her books to teach her Malayalam, the little preschool books. And Varun would sit with her while she's teaching the child, and he would pick up Malayalam while doing that, while he's watching her learn Malayalam. So he started reading Malayalam, and then he started reading English on his own because we had Sesame Street CDs in our house, which came with a computer purchase. He would play those Street CDs on the computer, and he would watch Cookie Monster. I would just think that he's a kid who's just having good time on the computer. But he was learning reading, watching the Cookie Monster. And he started reading everything that's written on calendars, on books, just randomly without anybody teaching. He picked up a pen and paper and he started even writing the script. Nobody taught him how to write Malayalam or Telugu or Hindi or English, because in Indian families usually we speak at least three languages, right? I mean, I don't know about North India. In South India, we speak Hindi, we speak our mother tongue, and we speak English, and read and write all the three of them. So Varun was exposed to four languages, and he was reading and writing all the four languages by the time he was 2, just on his own, without any help. So we knew that this child was very a precocious child who's learning so much without anybody trying to teach him. And the school he was going to, a preschool, It was a Steiner school, and they were totally against teaching reading and writing to young children. They had their own method of teaching, and it was a preschool. So the school teacher one day called me, and she was very upset and told me that, why are you teaching your child reading and writing? I said, I have not taught him anything. She didn't believe. She said that he's reading Telugu, he's reading English. How did he learn on his own? I said, I really did not teach him. He learned on his own. So that's when we understood that Varun was just looking at scripts and he's learning just by, he has his own method of learning languages. He wouldn't learn the way other kids would learn. So he would just read the whole sentence. For him, the whole sentence was like an image, and he's figured out how to decode the image. And he learned, he also on his own found out Wikipedia. He would go to Wikipedia, open whichever language page he wanted to learn, and he would sit and write hours together that script. So I stopped counting after 70 or 80 scripts, languages he learned. I don't know. He does it for a hobby. So we never tried to use it to make him do something out of it. He doesn't like it also. He doesn't want us to watch while he's doing it. So I know that he knows many, many languages. He can read and write, but we don't really do much with that. But what he sometimes does is, he's a Hindustani classical singer. So if he's learning something in, say, Tamil, he'll write the song in Tamil. If he's singing a song in a composition in Bangla, he can write that composition in Bangla. Whichever language composition that is, he can write that, and he can pronounce the sounds the way native speakers would do, you know. So he's obsessed with getting the pronunciation right of that particular sound in whichever language that is. So I think scripts have helped him learn the sounds correctly. And so he's got a very unique way of doing things. I can just say that, which I don't understand.
Another thing I was curious about, moving between various homes and countries,
Hmm.
did those changes impact Varun, or was he unaffected by them?
See, if you see autism as a condition, they usually don't like change, or they resist change. Varun did not show any extreme resistance. Of course, he had challenges moving countries and changing teachers, changing the way education is done. But it was not so difficult for us to get him adjusted to, uh, uh, moving back to India. Uh, I think we did not really have that kind of challenges we had to face with Varun. I think he probably experienced autism on a much milder way compared to many other children who have extreme difficulty in transitions and moving countries and changing things. He is very flexible that way. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I also wanted to understand, if you don't mind expanding on how child development in the critical first 6 years of their life, when interventions are said to work the best and enable the child to realize their full potential.
So in our case, we couldn't really not get too much interventions for Varun, even though he went to a inclusive school in the UK. The place where we were living in the UK did not really have too many therapists in that area, and the council was not able to give us dedicated one-to-one therapies. They would mostly visit school and train the school staff to, provide support to Varun, but not so much. So Varun did miss out on therapies when he was younger. In fact, he got more therapies after 6 years after we moved back to India. Uh, but when he was younger, we did have a challenge in finding therapists for him in the UK. That's exactly the reason why when I talk to parents at Ananya, I tell them that try and do as much as possible when the child is younger than trying to do it later. In our case, the circumstances were such that we couldn't really do much about getting him therapies. But now in India, the support system is way better. There are many private organizations that have gotten into intervention and rehabilitation for children. I think now parents can get intervention earlier. Yes, early intervention is very important, But in case of Varun, we tried our best, but we couldn't do as much as we wanted to.
And what guiding principles or philosophies shape your approach to autism support and intervention?
As I said, I'm a big believer in early intervention. I know that the first 6 years of life are the most important 6 years for any child, and the brain development happens maximum in that period. And also, it's easy to change the wiring, so to say, to some extent, and rewire their brains. Uh, but a lot of times parents take this approach of waiting and watching and expecting that the child will grow out of the condition on his own or her own. I don't believe in that at all. I tell them that what's the harm? Early intervention is always play based. We are just playing and doing some activities with the child. Even if your child does not have autism, has just is just mimicking condition the symptoms of autism, it's still not, therapy is not going to harm the child. Instead of waiting and wasting another 1 year and then realizing that it is ASD and then starting therapy, you would have wasted the most valuable 1 year of time for the child. So I tell them, you start therapy. If it's not autism, the symptoms are going to go away and the child will start speaking and developing typically. So I am a big believer in early intervention, and I developed my own way of doing early intervention actually with my experiences over the last almost 20 years of running Ananya and as a parent to Varun, and learning a lot from the mistakes that I did as a parent. I tell my parents that who come to Ananya that at least don't do the same mistakes I did. You can do new ones and learn from them. Why do you want to repeat the mistakes that we did and then learn again the same lesson that we have learned? We're wasting time, you know. So I have my own way of approaching autism and early intervention. We follow that, and we integrate it with auditory integration and music, art, and also nutrition. I see that nutrition is a very big part of uh, autism therapy. I believe in it. Diet and nutrition. We have a full-time clinical nutritionist who works with us with children, and we once we change nutrition and their gut problems, we see that the therapy is giving much better results than children who are not getting that kind of support with nutrition and gut issues that they have. And a lot of children with autism will have some kind of metabolic issues which usually get ignored because it's not really very well known to many doctors, again, because they don't study autism in depth. What we do is, that's what we do. We just do autism, we don't do any other conditions. So it's like we do continuous research on what is happening in this space. In fact, we just recently launched on our website research.asap.org.in. For anybody who wants to get the latest research, they can go to our website and they can get access to the latest research in this space. I feel that parents rely a lot on just random articles on the internet, blogs, which are not really evidence based. Sometimes we really don't know because there are no citations, they're not peer reviewed. So we decided to give them access to research, latest cutting edge research. They can go and read about it on our website and make informed decisions about whatever they want to do with the child than simply reading a random blog and trying to understand and support their child.
And what led you to become an RCI certified autism specialist? And what do you
Yeah.
think changed after RCI?
Not much, to be honest. I just wanted to get a license to, when I'm talking to parents and saying go to a licensed therapist, go to a qualified person, I wanted first to get my own license. My only license till then was my son, you know, and I was a parent. Nobody can say that you don't know anything about autism because I'm living with someone with autism for the last 26 years. I think what Varun has taught, no book has taught me, no courses have taught me, no RCA has taught me. RCA was just more of a, professional requirement rather than uh, to do anything different. I'm not doing anything differently after RCA. I'm doing the same work. I'm just more. Gives us more credibility when I say that I'm RCS certified than I'm just talking as a parent. You know, so that's what I think has changed, and I got a license number. That's it. Nothing
Um,
much. Yeah.
and I also wanted to hear the story behind the name Ananya of your organization.
So, Ananya is a Sanskrit word which means one of a kind, unique. So, I like that name so much. If I had a daughter, I would have named her Ananya. Since I have two sons, Varun is the older one, Pranav is the younger one. I did not get to use that name for my children. So I thought, okay, since I was starting a center for special needs kids, I thought Ananya is a very good name because every child who comes to Ananya is one of a kind and very unique. So I thought Ananya is a very good name for the center. That's how it started. It has came to know much later that it has many other philosophical implications, which I don't want to get into. They're very highly religious, but it means one of a kind.
And what challenges do you think India faces in terms of autism misconceptions, awareness, and support? And how is Ananya helping to address these issues?
I think India, now big cities in India are way better because they would have heard the term autism quite frequently off late. I don't see that kind of a surprise when I say autism to anybody. Yeah, they tell me, yeah, I know somebody who has autism. My neighbor's kid has autism, or somebody I know has a child with autism. So it's not a shock to them. Or they wouldn't say, autism, what is autism? They used to think autism is artism, ARTISM, and they thought it's something to do with art. So those days. But nowadays they know what is autism in big cities. But I think in small towns and in rural parts of India, it's still a very big taboo to have a child with special needs, and they would like to hide it from their families and friends because they think that, oh my God, it's a shameful thing to tell people that I have a child, son or a daughter with special needs. So, yes, it is going to take some time, but we are doing a lot of awareness activities. As I said, the moment you reached out to me and said, I want to talk about autism, I said yes. Likewise, I don't leave any opportunity, whether it's awareness campaigns for the government, for schools, for corporates, for colleges, whenever. We don't charge anything for that. We do completely free of cost. We have a not-for-profit also in Ananya, which takes care of those kind of initiatives, and we do everything for free. We just tell them if you need any training program for your parents, for teachers, we are happy to do it for you. So I think there's a huge need for awareness. I think as a small organization, Ananya can only do that much. I think government needs to do more awareness campaigns and promote inclusion, give support to families that have children with special needs, not just autism. I think there's a huge lack of awareness when it comes to any special needs in India, not just autism. Autism more so because children with autism don't have any physical deformities or any physical differences. When if you see like some genetic conditions like Down syndrome, the moment you see a person, maybe this person has Down syndrome, you're pretty much sure, they look a certain way. Whereas in autism, because our children don't look also different, it's kind of a silent disability. Unless the child has some hyperactivity or some behavior difficulties, you don't see autism otherwise, right? It's very easy to cover it up or camouflage it and call it speech delay. And for a few years, parents actually bank on those kind of things and say, oh, my child has speech delay. But no, it's not speech delay, it is autism in most of the cases. Because when we say we can tell, but a regular, a lay person won't be able to differentiate between speech delay and ASD. So they call ASD speech delay and get away with it for some time or hide it from their family for some time. So it is a big taboo in India still. It takes time to get there.
And I wanted to ask something that I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, but um, how do you envision the future of Ananya? Can you talk about any of the ongoing projects you mentioned or future
Yeah.
projects?
So the one project that I'm working on is I'm developing an app to screen children in 0 to 6 years of age to spot for developmental delays. And so this app can be used by Anganwadis, government preschools, daycare centers, regular schools which have preschool sections in them, or basically I haven't opened up this app for parents yet. We're only working more like the government, and we would like to eventually open up this to parents also, so that they can answer the questions and find out if their child is delayed. That's one project that I'm working on. And my son recently graduated. He's a doctor, and he wants to join me, and he wants to continue the initiative that I've started 20 years ago. So I'm waiting for him to come and join me and continue the journey that I started. Then he might have his own ideas. He'll bring some things to. I've been wanting to have a doctor on board, uh, but a lot of doctors don't prefer working in this rehabilitation space because uh, they don't find it very exciting, right? So luckily, my son is interested, so I'm hoping to do some good work with him when he joins me.
And what advice would you like to give parents and caregivers, autistic individuals who are beginning their journey?
I would say autism is just a name, just a word. Your child is still your child. Okay. You're going to love the child probably more if you know that your child has some special needs, not less. So don't let that autism word limit you in dreaming big for your child and trying to do whatever you want to do for the child. Be realistic and support your child. Don't compare your child with neurotypically developing children, because you can't compare apples to oranges. That's not possible. I call our children designer kids, and imagine if you have a designer watch or a limited edition car, you're going to flaunt it, right? You're going to say there these are just there are 10 watches and I have one of them, you know. And why can't you flaunt your children with special needs? Because even if you want to have one more child with autism, probably you can't give birth to one more child with autism. So it's such a rarity to have a child with special needs. You should be proud of your children instead of being ashamed and hiding them in your houses. You need to take them out, flaunt them, talk about the condition, spread awareness, and do your best as a parent. You did not cause this condition to your child. The child is born with the condition and he chose you as parents. How can we let down our children when they chose us as parents? I think we should do our best to support them with whatever condition they are, not just autism. It could be cerebral palsy, it could be Down syndrome, it could be anything, doesn't matter. They chose us, and we are their parents, and we do our best. Instead of trying to feel ashamed or embarrassed to talk about your child's condition, you should take that as an opportunity that I would say it's an opportunity that I got, and I chose autism as my life's purpose to talk about it, to spread awareness. If all parents do that, we don't have to hide our children anywhere. You know, it's going to be very easy for them. And people also, the moment I disclose about my son's autism, I only got support from everybody. Nobody judged me. Only when we try to hide, people get confused because they don't know what to do with us then, because we are not telling them the truth. I think if we tell them the truth, we tell them that my son has autism, can you help me? People are very happy to help us if there is a problem, whether it's airports or any social situations. I never had any problem traveling with Varun. Recently, I traveled with him to Tirupati and we were in the airport. And my brother, I was traveling with my brother, another male co-passenger with us, and all of us were women. My brother had got a phone call and he stepped away from the line to answer the call, and Varun ended up alone in the men's security check line. I was panicking that, oh my God, how are we going to get him through the security, because he won't sometimes answer any questions. when somebody talks to him. I was worried. So I just quickly finished my security check and I went to the other side and I stood near the men's line, and I was looking anxiously at the security person who was screening him. And the man could sense him that maybe this person has special needs. And I looked at him. I said, "Please." He said that, "Don't worry, I'll take care of him." And Varun loves security checks. All these beeps, when they do, when they scan, he's smiling and is having a good time. And it's a little different, right? People might sense he's smiling and laughing could be interpreted in any way. I was worried that maybe this man might get irritated with him because he's having a good time while doing the security check. People are pretty serious, right? They just raise their hand and you get the security done, and Varun is having a great time. I was like, oh my God, how is he going to get through this? And I told him he has autism. And he's like, okay, no problem, ma'am. I'll take care of him. And we just got through the security. Like this, if you are able to tell the security personnel or police or whoever it is, they are very supportive. In fact, somebody reached out to me from Hyderabad airport and they told me, can you please train our security personnel in managing people with special needs in security? So we trained 300 Central Industrial Security Force personnel in how do you address, how do you manage when there's a person with special needs in security checks, whether it's a child or an adult, doesn't matter. So we had done the training, but I think that I saw myself that whatever we did, the trainings we did are actually very helpful to families, because I myself experienced such good treatment in the security area, in Hyderabad. So, yeah, I think it's all about accepting and telling people that, yes, yeah, this person has autism. I need extra help. Can you please help? Rather than trying to hide it from them.
Thank you.
That's,
That's great advice.
yeah.
Miss Adi Malone, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. Congratulations on your amazing success so far, and I hope for it to be continued. Thank you.